What I love about still life is the sheer variety that it offers. When you paint still life, you literally get to paint anything. And that's kind of an exciting thing. My name is David Jamieson. I'm a contemporary realist painter. Really what I'm trying to do in a painting is convey an optical experience with as much honesty and integrity as I can. I grew up in Canada. I'm from a town called Brantford in Ontario. It's about an hour southwest of Toronto. I went to university in Toronto. I was fortunate in that my parents had a real appreciation of the arts. My mother studied music in school and was a teacher for a while. My father was a physician, but they both had a real love of what we called back then culture. And my sister and I were encouraged to understand these things as being very special. I attended the New York Academy of Art, and I was just thrilled with my time there. It was a school that seemed to be just exactly what I was looking for. They placed an emphasis on quote-unquote traditional skills of drawing and painting, which I took to mean just learning how to draw and paint what you see with some degree of accuracy, and doing so within a contemporary context. I saw that, I thought, sign me up. I remember actually after the presentation running down the hall. This is still in the days of payphones. There was a payphone at the end of the hall, and I called the New York Academy immediately and was disappointed to find that the application deadline had already passed. And I remember on the phone, this is very unlike me, I remember talking to the guy and pleading with him to let me apply late. Like, I know the deadline's passed, but I can have an application to you tomorrow. And I did, and I was overjoyed to get accepted to the school and move to New York. I remember the first time being aware of painting as something that was really fantastic, something that I might want to do, was when I first discovered Vermeer, which is when I was in college. Here were paintings that were realistic, but not photographic. They were more atmospheric. They were there was something mysterious about them in terms of just where these things came from, how these things came into being. You know, Vermeer paintings ultimately are about light. And that's how I feel about still life painting. Ultimately, it's about light. The objects, in a way, don't matter. It's the light that's bouncing off those objects, and it's how those objects shape the light that is being reflected, and how that light mixes in the eye and is registered in the brain. That's what still life painting is about for me. And in that sense, even though Vermeer wasn't strictly a still life painter, there are still life elements in his work, but nevertheless, the common thread is that Vermeer paintings are about the light, and for me, still life painting is about the light also. Realism is also an abstraction. In order to successfully capture the visual field, you have to break things down into their basic building blocks. Thinking about these things in a kind of semi-abstract way, ironically, is the path toward realism, and has less to do with simply copying what you see, as many people might think. Representational painting is equal parts observation and conceptualization. Yes, we look at what we see, but we filter what we see through our understanding of how light works and how form works and how paint works, and that understanding affects the decisions that we then make on the canvas that lead to more successful decisions than you're ever going to make if it's simply an act of mimesis, of copying that here. And that's, in a way, an appealing irony of representational painting, is that ideally, yes, you end up with this painting that looks very much like the thing that you have set out to paint, and yet the road to get there is not nearly as direct as one might think. And as one tends to think when one's learning to paint, you end up having to take this very circuitous path to get there. And that's part of what makes painting complicated and interesting, the kind of thing that you can spend your life doing and not get tired of it.